Yeah, it is time. What's going on, my beautiful people? Welcome back. So, as you guys might know, I love the Assassin's Creed franchise. I love the Ezio trilogy. I love Black Flag. I actually love Syndicate, and I fucking hate with a passion Valhalla and Mirage because their story did not make any sense. It just had the Assassin's Creed name to it. And these games are destroying the Ubisoft brand and Ubisoft company. But now their newest game, Assassin's Creed Shadow, came out, and people are actually saying it's good. I don't know. The reviews are not bad on Steam, but I want to see the reviews of legitimate people. And if you thought I would go through these prostitutes, then you are wrong. I will go for actual legitimate people who criticize the game and give their honest opinions about the game and give the people the feedback that they want. So if you enjoyed this reaction, make sure to leave a like on this, but subscribe to this awesome channel. And if you want to see the playthrough of the game, make sure to hit that like button and tell me in the comment section down below what other games you want me to react to, if the reviews, or if you want me to play the game by myself. Tell me in the comment section, but of course make sure to subscribe. It helps a ton. Now, without further ado, also make sure to check out these two videos. The link will be in the description. So take care and let's go. Now, as you guys can see, this is the first review. It is by gameranx, the channel that I actually love a lot. They give some great criticisms about the game. And without further ado, let's see what they have for us.
Hey, we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and
Hey,
our
Jake.
first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. After years of waiting for the setting that everyone has been asking for and multiple delays, it's finally here. As a resident Assassin's Creed fan at gameranx, I was able to put aside my nostalgia for the old style games and just jump into this head first. And I wasn't sure what to expect. Well, here's the verdict up front for you guys. And I'm sorry, it's just not that extreme, but it's the truth, or at least my truth here. It's that Assassin's Creed Shadows for me is just fine. For some people, fine is all right. For other people, fine just isn't quite good enough. Life might be too short to play a game that's just okay, I guess. And
yeah, so he says for him it is mid.
I fall in the latter camp. Now, have you ever played or watched something that you know is technically good, or it's an improvement upon a previous thing and doesn't do anything really egregiously wrong, but it still doesn't click with you? Something you might mildly enjoy, but it's missing something where you may ultimately forget it over time. That's Assassin's Creed Shadows for me. Putting some of my personal whining aside for a second, the good news...
And I think Mirage was the same for me. I love the gameplay, but the environment was the same. It was straight up a desert. There wasn't much activities in the game itself. I know they said it's a short game, but still, it's an Assassin's Creed. The story was meh throughout the game, and the ending did not make any sense to me whatsoever. I'm still confused to this day about its ending. What was it? What was the story even all about? Did it even matter? And the thing that they did to some characters doesn't make sense.
It is an improvement upon Assassin's Creed Valhalla. From a technical standpoint, it's in way better shape performance-wise and glitch-wise. It has way better stealth, and the world is gorgeous and incredible. I really think the extra time in the development oven helped
Ghost of Tsushima for sure.
Unfortunately, repetitive quests and side activities, some weird design choices, and some real rough story sections, unfortunately, just drag it all down. When you don't care about the story and you start to feel like you've seen everything after the first 20 hours, you might end up just kind of feeling like you're just going through the motions, turning off your brain and just grinding through another big Assassin's Creed game until you stop and ask yourself, what for? Still, it's an interesting game to talk about overall, and all this just comes down to your preferences. I know some people that put 200 hours into Valhalla and they loved every minute of it, so I might not be talking to that type of person, but either way, let's just dive in more. And just so you know, I've been playing a review copy, and this footage is spoiler-free and is captured running on a PS5 Pro. Now, first things first, it's an Assassin's Creed game featuring two full main playable characters, not just swapping between Guy and girl. They have real, substantial, and distinct playstyles. This isn't like a Jacob and Evie Fry thing. This is like deliberate, and they really committed to two completely different feeling characters and playstyles. So there's Naoe, the shinobi stealth character, and Yasuke, the big, strong
the one that caused a massive war. Massive wiki war. The amount of changes and editing that they did to this guy's lore is insane in wiki. You guys know what I'm talking about. The controversies, they say this is woke, some anti-woke bullshit, blah blah blah. Some say this is not legitimate. They say this is woke. I do not know. I really did not care too much about it.
Samurai.
Because yes, Assassin's Creed is known for their historical accuracy, somewhat, but it's still a fantasy RPG.
Two complete polar opposite play styles. Now the game starts with Naoe. You learn the ropes of the world with her, and surprisingly, the game commits to not bringing Yasuke fully into the playable fold.
Oh, that's I think Ezio's armor, or no?
The game,
or what was the guy's name? What was the guy's name in Assassin's Creed 1? The protagonist of Assassin's Creed 1. Oh my god, I forgot his name. That's his armor,
first.
I think.
So by the time you do finally get to play as Yasuke,
that's definitely his
switch
armor.
To him whenever you want, he just feels worlds different. Now, Naoe is fast, really fast. She runs around, she crouches, she slides, she grappling hooks, she assassinates, she parkours. She is the Assassin's Creed experience. Yasuke is powerful as hell. He sprints much slower, but he's larger. He can bash through doors. He can take a bunch of hits, deal a ton of damage, but he can barely do any assassin type stuff. And he can't really climb very much. Sure, like I said, he can break through doors, but still, you're very limited in terms of just how you get around. This leads to him being a ton of fun to play as in a pinch when you just want to be strong and chop off a bunch of heads, but it makes him far less enticing to play mainly as you ride around and explore, because like,
so he basically is just a, I guess you could say Witcher, like Geralt. I'm not even going to compare him to Witcher or Geralt, but he seems like Jin from Ghost of Tsushima, but a lesser version of him. Jin is not only does assassinations, but you can also straight up go towards an entire camp, slaughter them in a frontal assault. So he is the frontal assault, but without the assassination of the elements. But that makes him, I think, a little bit less of a character
much in an
to play as.
Game, you really have a hard time.
How much can you go for a headstrong?
So,
you want to challenge yourself to assassin.
To these characters feeling starkly different, which is cool. I commend them for that. But on the other hand, it just feels kind of forced and weird in certain moments. One of the main ways you progress your character with skill points is exploring temples and climbing around to earn points. And one of the characters can't really do too much of this. They give Yasuke his own version of it, but still, it just doesn't feel like enough. So while they made creative choices with this and they stuck to their guns, to me, it can't help but feel like trying to please everyone. You know, the sneaky assassins in Assassin's Creed fans and the newer fans who just love these massive big RPGs and loved killing dudes as a Viking or a Greek warrior previously. So for me, Yasuke was really fun in the select story missions and moments where you just needed to play as him. I actually really enjoyed him for that. The brutality, you know, his special abilities, his ranged abilities, and just really good gore and decapitations made it, well, nice in the moment. But Naoe, on the other hand, she's kind of more well built for what these games still are. The running, the climbing, the jumping, climbing up towers and swan diving off, all that stuff. The stealth also, it's very good. It's still Assassin's Creed, right? So it's still pretty smooth and streamlined and simple, but it just works well here. You get the right amount of actually useful tools, no real filler or fluff with them. You get just the right amount of hiding places.
I can see the issue with him. Yasuke, again, I think they tried, like you said, tried to please everyone with him having the Valhalla gameplay or combat system, but I think they missed the mark when it came to him not showing him being an assassin. Assassins are known for stealth. I don't know, because like I said, how many times can you play as a buff dude straight up in a camp? That is not a challenge. The challenge is to try to stealthily kill anything in your sight, using your tools, strategize, plan. While at the other side, you can just be skillful at deflecting. Let's be honest; these games are known for their easy to deflect at attacks and enemies. There's not much difficulty in these games.
Look,
it's not a Souls-like where you can learn.
This is still the case. Like, you'll still just sit and hide in a bush, and then you whistle, and then a dumb guy walks over and you stab him in the face, and you pull him into the bushes with you. But they introduce clever, creative ways to kind of keep you on your toes. Like some enemies just being able to see you coming a bit better, some challenging combat, and cool tricks like some interior areas having like shinobi-proof floors and traps that make noises and alert people you're trying to sneak up on. You can also hold the crouch button and go completely prone and just crawl around, kind of like The Last of Us style. It's only really needed in very specific instances, but still it's...
So this guy is a special one that you cannot assassinate.
Nice to have, and I think it's a good addition to the series. I do miss social stealth, but I'm glad they didn't just toss some of it in here in a half-ass way like Valhalla did. It's honestly the best stealth in these newer games, I guess, since Assassin's Creed Origins. So I'm giving it a lot of credit for that. It has some issues, like when you go to some of the smaller interiors and the towers, the controls get really fiddly and the camera can get stuck and screw you up, but otherwise it's all pretty good. It's no Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, but I think it saved the game for me personally. It's also way better with the difficulty turned up, just a heads up for some of you. Unfortunately, what you're actually doing can dry up after a while. A lot of encounter areas and bases just start to feel familiar, and you get into that rinse-repeat mode.
Yep,
it's a big world filled with things to do, but you only occasionally find real genuine surprises, something that delights you or just changes things up. They are here, they are deep in this world, you just gotta dig for them. The main stuff and the main side quests on the surface just aren't very enticing. This is because the objectives usually boil down to something extremely simple, like get this item or kill everyone here. And with the game so fluid and accessible and trying to please everyone here, it doesn't really ever want to put up too many walls or limiters to shake things up very much. A lot of the game is structured around groups, main groups and side groups of people that need to be killed. Each requires a mission or a handful of missions to actually find out where they are and meet up with them and take them out.
It's straight up following the pattern of Assassin's Creed.
There's a select handful of evil bad guys at the top that you slowly get to know and figure out over the course of the game. We've seen it in other games, and we've definitely seen it in other Assassin's Creed games, but the way it's paced here and how both the side and main stuff is often structured like this, like everything, it just leads to you not really caring much about your target. You're not spending too much time, or when you are, it's just few and far between or scattered. It's just really, really muddled, and it's hard to stay interested. And I say that as a bad thing because, well, the game does double down on storytelling. Lengthy dialogue sequences and surprisingly long cutscenes show the game is really committed to it. Unfortunately, nearly all of it fell flat for me, mostly because of the voice acting. You encounter dozens and dozens of characters on your adventure, and only a
and
small
what's up with these facial animations? I'll be honest with you guys. I think even Odyssey and Mirage had better facial structures and facial animations than this. The hell is going on with these facial animations?
That didn't get on my nerves. Corny
this looks like
writing
Andromeda.
Awkward voice acting is just
face structure, or even
especially
Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Lots to talk about. Now I can shrug that off in a lot of other games or situations, but unfortunately,
this now it looked better in her trailer.
Here also fall into.
And yeah, I know those are cinematics, but even
awkward, then, dare I say, Rizless people that I found really hard to care about, and you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. Naoi's story is a bit generic, where Yasuke's at least actually has some interesting flavor to it. The game has some really cool, moments and a few good story sequences that are just peppered throughout and surrounded by a bunch of way more bland, way less excitingly directed stuff. All that stuff gets in the way of a few really cool moments that make the game really feel like a proper Assassin's Creed game. All of that good, solid stuff is buried in hours and hours of stuff that, frankly, I found boring. Long dialogue sequences about characters that don't matter that quickly the game moves on from. And again, stiff characters just really hurt the experience. I want a story to chase. I want a vibe or a feeling to play through. I want to see what's going to happen at the end of stories. That's why I play through them, but I didn't really get any of that here. What I did get, sort of, is this world. It is absolutely staggering and gorgeously detailed. Think Ghost of Tsushima, but with way more people living there, higher population, big cities, castle towns, fishing villages, woodsy hunter encampments.
So it's not much. It's better than Rise of Ronin. Rise of Ronin was in Japan, but the problem is that it wasn't graphically stunning, let's say.
But
the combat was the meat of that game.
This Japan feels alive and compelling, and really is straight up awesome. Finding a temple in the mountains as the sun.
Yeah, this is the issue that I have sometimes, is that now Assassin's Creed has focused less on the villains. Previously, the villains were compelling. There were enemies you could understand. They were scumbags, let's say it like that. Even I remember in Syndicate, the main bad guy, we knew we would constantly get cutscenes with him after we killed each of his guys, and he felt more of a complete character. They did a fantastic job on him as a compelling character, and I love that. Nowadays, I don't see that anymore. Like in Mirage, yes, they were mysterious groups, but each of these villains felt flat. We straight up, for some reason, we were able to find out their identities and we killed them. Yay? I don't know. Nowadays, I feel like they are not giving the villains too much credit
too. Bamboo forest in a foggy morning is badass and beautiful. Leaping from a castle in the snow or sneaking through a village lit by candle in the pitch black darkness of the night, it's all just really cool shit. The detail and the art direction gives life and legit detail to a virtual Japan, while also still preserving some of its more mysterious, ethereal beauty. I don't know if the map had to be this big. There are still plenty of stretches where it's just mountains or endless trees with nothing really else going on, but still, it all collectively just makes it all feel like a big, massive, and actually real convincing place, especially with seasons. So as you progress, seasons naturally change. The refreshing alerts and wanted status, and giving you a few extra things to consider. Snow can be deep and slow you down, for instance. But the visual change-ups are really awesome. Being wanted in a whole area of the map is still chaotic, and especially the guys that chase you this time around, they are really over the top and actually pretty cool. But the visual change-ups really
it is beautiful. I will say awesome. That I'll give it credit. It is absolutely beautiful.
Once you start getting bored of looking at it one way, it nearly completely changes to something else. The looks are over the top and just really nice looking.
That's something Ghost of Tsushima really did well. Although they did not have season change, they had seasons in every section. It changed the dynamic, the map of the entire game. It felt new. The areas felt beautiful and detailed in every section. It did not need it to have a season change. It's just changed the map completely.
But it really is a hell of a technical accomplishment here. And that goes for the rest of it, because I can only speak for my experience playing on PS5, but it all ran decent and looked good. And most importantly, I didn't encounter any bugs or weird glitches or crashes in my
playthrough. The game looks like it is easy to counter, like the slow motion that the enemy had. It is easy to be able to kill in frontal assault. Even in Ghost of Tsushima, it was fun, yes, but it was easy to be able to master the skills to be able to kill everything in a frontal assault. But stealth that's another thing that is so hard to master and strategize. That's the meat of Assassin's Creed. That's the entire name of the game.
Combat is a fairly simple affair. A few different weapon types with heavy and light attacks and dodges and perfect time parries. You can call in allies for quick little assists, almost Brotherhood style, like having an ally stealth kill an enemy from a nearby bush, or have a heavy character jumping in to help fight. You also have your own special abilities mapped to holding the trigger and pressing a button, like a big powerful lunge, a multi-hit, like, pretty straightforward stuff. And really, the combat overall here is straightforward if you played Valhalla or Odyssey. It's in a similar vein, but here, the clash of swords is very satisfying, and the gore is actually really, really good. Heads lop off and blood sprays on walls, and the player attack animations are pretty great, no matter what weapon you're using. Now, in terms of progression, the skill tree is broken out into different weapon types, tools, and assassin skills. You level up and earn points to spend to unlock things in these different trees, and they work well and good enough. Game-changing abilities and better use of tools, or just a melee damage increase. Either way, the types of things you unlock are very useful, and it just feels pretty good to acquire them. Unfortunately, better and better skills are actually locked behind knowledge rank tiers that you gotta open up first, and those require separate points to earn. The easiest and main way to earn them is by exploring and doing stuff. Archery challenges and little different meditative things for Yasuke, or finding shrines and temples and exploring them for Nawe. These places either require you to pick up X number of hidden things, like find 3 hidden scrolls, or pray at 4 different altars with this long pray animation, or engage in a couple of kind of meditative style but frustrating mini games. And frankly, this stuff is just not thrilling. I like that they want you to explore and really see these locations they created. Blocking away
skills, that is not the thing.
It's not all as meditative as I think they were trying to go for. I just want to
in Ghost of Tsushima, you would get rewarded for it, with perks, with upgradable charms, but not if you want to lock away skills behind them. That is not a good way.
Sword attack, please. Unfortunately, this kind of deterred me from pursuing knowledge ranks for a while in my playthrough. I went through half of the game with only one special ability attack for one of the characters, and I fared just fine. Eventually, I did slog through them to get better, but it just wasn't that fun earning those knowledge ranks. It felt like a lot of things in the game. Busy work and a grind. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is you're also building out your own home base, a hideout, like Valhalla, but more customizable here. Building a workshop to craft and upgrade your weapons, rooms to hold allies,
it is beautiful.
And gain extra scouts to use in the field,
it
and
is
just
beautiful.
Kind of have some fun customizing. I put dogs and cats everywhere, and cool statues I found out in the wild. Come to think of it, actually, fun loot comes kind of few and far between. When it is good, like a white sword or a cool spooky mask. But the stuff you get more regularly is fun things to place around your hideout, and I really like that. I guess technically it's not the longest of these modern AC games, but you're definitely going to be able to spend a ton of time in it, probably at least 70 hours if you love it all and want to check a lot of boxes off. But towards the end of the story, which clocks in at about 35 to 45 hours depending on how you play, I was already pretty checked out. Bland characters and rinse and repeat missions and bases really dried up my goodwill as a player. The awesome story stuff, I'm glad it's trickled in there, but is it worth the grind? That's going to be up to you. I might be in the minority with this one. I know I've complained quite a bit. Hey, I can't always steer you, right? That's why I always recommend to watch other reviews too. But
I'll do that, man. But I always trust the gameranx, and especially Jake with his he's just such an honest guy with his opinions, so I really trust his opinions.
You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. It seems like when you look online in the gaming world, it's either people's most anticipated game ever or the worst game to ever exist in humanity. I think the reality is probably a little less extreme, so let me know in the comments what you think about this game. Were you looking forward to it? Have you been begging for an Assassin's Creed game in Japan? Do you like Tenchu as much as I do? Is that maybe clouding your judgment on all of this? I don't know for sure. Look, let's talk anything Assassin's Creed Shadows down in the comments. If you like this video and maybe just seeing some...
Okay, I think that's enough for that one. we still got another one for you guys, and it is by skillup. So make sure to tune for that. Stay tuned for that, and of course make sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed it so far. But I can see his point. I can see it. I don't like some factors that they are, again, Assassin's Creed is not paying attention to their story anymore. They're just constantly paying more attention on their world, not the people, the folks in it. And I don't like that. The reason that Assassin's Creed was a revolutionary thing, yes, it was this parkour gameplay, but also its story and its characters. Like Ezio is a complete character, and he's so lovable. Where did that go? Who cares about Ivor anymore? No one cares about it. And Basim, who cares about him? He's not a full character. They just went for the world and combat. They did not give him any personality whatsoever. But stay tuned for the skillup review. Let's see what he has for us. Okay, this video review is by skillup. Let's see what this guy has to offer for us. I really liked him because of his honest opinion about Dragon Age the Veilguard. He was completely thorough with it. He showed his complete honesty, and I like that so far. So that's the reason I come back to his reviews for some games, and I want to see his review about Assassin's Creed Shadows. So let's go.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is a tricky game to talk about, and I'll tell you why. So much of what AC Shadows is new or evolved or refined or a response to criticisms people had about the modern AC trilogy. So much of it is different than what has come before it, and in most instances, those differences are an improvement. At the same time, the core pillars of the modern AC games remain as load-bearing here in Shadows as they do in the other games, and by that I mean this still feels like a game you've played before because foundational elements like writing, quest design, open world design, side activities, X-ray vision, etc., they remain unchanged.
Yeah.
For that reason, I don't think anyone should go into this expecting an experience that feels markedly different than what has come before it. You will definitely note the numerous ways that AC Shadows looks to refine and expand the formula, but many of those changes sit at the surface level, and once the novelty of those things wears off, you're eventually going to come back to some core elements that either work for you or they don't. And that is a really crucial point to engage with here, because for many people, more Assassin's Creed is just fine by them. You know what these games are, you go in with eyes open, you know there's going to be lots of goons to assassinate and map markers to clear, and the chance to do that in a new historical setting is fine. And I want to stress that for that type of player, Assassin's Creed Shadows is an instant buy. This game will absolutely deliver what you expect, and there's a very good chance that you'll enjoy a number of the changes that Ubisoft have made here, particularly to the stealth and traversal stuff, where playing as Nawe is just fantastic. She feels great. But there is another category of person, and I count myself among them. It's that person who looks at this franchise and is often frustrated by its wasted potential, frustrated by the weak writing, the laborious game structure, the subpar combat, the focus on quantity over quality. For those people, Assassin's Creed Shadows carried with it the hope that, hey, maybe it'll be different this time. Unfortunately, it's just not. Yes, it is shorter. My playthrough was around 40 hours long, but that still felt too long and too drawn out.
40 hours is so high. I mean, come on. It's Ghost of Tsushima was like around 25 hours, if I am correct. Or maybe 20 hours. If you complete all the side activities and the entire map, it would take like around 25 or 30 hours. Correct me in the comment section down below if I'm wrong. But the thing that I remember, still 40 hours just for the story is high. It's so high.
Elements remain weak. The writing is terrible. Similar to most other Ubisoft games, the anthology-based game structure makes it very difficult to build a cohesive narrative or develop memorable characters.
So you see,
it also completely buries the lead, where the riveting Templar vs. Assassin stuff only properly picks up in the last 5 hours of the game.
Damn.
The preceding 35 hours are just so inane that I can barely remember any of it. I also struggle to remember any specific town or landmark I visited because, like I said, they all blur into one given Ubisoft's quantity over quality approach to world design. The stealth stuff is really solid, absolutely, but the combat is just not up to par in 2025. It's just not. It's messy, basic, uninteresting combat with a really low skill ceiling and a disappointing lack of enemy variety. And it's a problem laid very bare by the game's most ambitious design choice, having not one but two protagonists, with Nawe embodying the shinobi assassin fantasy and Yasuke embodying the samurai brawler fantasy. This was a really interesting experiment, but in my view, it has categorically failed. Naoe's full stack kit of stealth, traversal, assassinations, and full frontal combat make her a joy to play.
Yeah,
in contrast, Yasuke's kit, which is exclusively focused on combat, makes him feel like he's a video game character that's wandered into the wrong game. And to be super clear, that has nothing to do with the color of his skin. And I'll go even further and say that some of the narrative high points of this game were the ones dealing with Yasuke's history before he came to Japan, or the ones where he's staring down prejudice. I was all in on that stuff, I really was. Every complaint I have about Yasuke is on a mechanical level, and it really boils down to the fact that his kit does not align with the overall design of this video game. It's like
oh my god, that honk ass of a man was trying to go for a rope. You see, it makes it slow. It makes the flow of the game slow. Assassin's Creed has always been known for the fast combat, for fast pace of traversal systems. Even, again, Ghost of Tsushima was better than this. Jin was frontal assault, great combat system, great character narrative, great writing, and even great stealth. It felt right. But yeah, I again, based on what I'm seeing, he feels slow. Yes, that's his kid. He is built for combat. But how many times can you just go for the combat? It becomes a chore. Like, imagine if you, I will say again, for Ghost of Tsushima, go for like frontal assault, like in 5 hours. Just straight up, just go for combat. See how much you will get bored. Eventually, even though the combat is phenomenal, the variety is there, you will eventually get bored. So that's where the stealth comes out, the different situations comes out, and that makes the game fresh. But not if your entire kit is just built for combat.
Shadows is a game that successfully evolves a number of the more surface level aspects of this formula without doing any major renovation to its foundations. If you were already happy with modern AC games and you just wanted another one, then I think you're going to enjoy yourself with Shadows. But if you were looking for more than that, then unfortunately you're not going to find it here.
Alone, we are nothing, but together.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is the worst written of the modern AC quadrilogy, though it does manage to clear the very low bar set by Mirage. I am going to say plenty of good things about this game, believe me, but better to rip the band-aid off when it comes to the writing. The premise of this story is a surprisingly strong one. Yasuke came to Japan with the Portuguese as a slave, but the warlord Oda Nobunaga, who was attempting to unify Japan through conquest, lifted Yasuke up out of slavery and into his service as a samurai. Yasuke rode with Nobunaga during the sacking of Iga, a region of Japan that was home to Naoe. Naoe's life was ruined that night when her homeland was razed to the ground and her father was murdered by a band of masked assailants called the Shinbakufuku. Similarly, Yasuke's life was upturned when Oda Nobunaga was betrayed by an upstart general. Both untethered from the bonds of family or feudal service, Yasuke and Naoe begin their quest of vengeance, unawares of the darker forces orchestrating the events that have torn their lives
asunder. The Templars.
So you might be thinking, okay, so Yasuke helped destroy Naoe's life. Why are they working together now? Well, that's a great question, and it'd be really nice if the game dwelled on it for more than a single cutscene. Unfortunately though, that irreconcilable tension between them is reconciled in their very first meeting, and after that it's barely referenced again as Naoe and Yasuke form an immediate connection and fellowship, one based on unquestioning trust in one another, despite the fact that they literally just met and Yasuke quite literally ruined her life. It's an example of how much AC Shadows
beautiful, like absolutely beautiful, stunning. I love the fact that for some reason that makes sense. So did that make sense for you guys? Is that a good game design for you guys? No? Nobody? Okay, we're just going to continue.
On the table when it comes to its protagonists. They're both of them on this quest for vengeance, both of them tumbling down a rabbit hole they couldn't have possibly seen coming in their wildest imaginings, but they feel like two ships passing in the night. They comment on what's going on around them without ever really confronting each other, and as a result, the bond between them feels weak and unearned. Sadly, the dynamic between them feels
like it just exists.
Will he live?
The wound is not deadly. It will be another scar to blame on his brother.
He almost cost us the fight and got himself killed.
He was trying to save his family. We would both do the same.
So if that chemistry isn't there,
I
are
did not like
Yasuke
that
and
voice
Naoe at
acting.
least good characters in their own right? I mean, I think they're okay. I spent 90% of my playthrough playing as Naoe, and I definitely appreciated her steely determination. She's got some real fire in her at times, and I liked that she was unafraid to bare her fangs. Yasuke as well is fine. I spent much less time with him, but again, he too can get pretty fiery, and he doesn't shy away from a fight either.
They call me Yasuke. Lord Oda Nobunaga gave me my sword. I accept your challenge. Samurai against samurai. Blood against blood. To the death.
I wish I had more words
Again,
to
why
describe
is
these
his
characters.
voice acting sound fine sometimes and then sounds eerie at another time? Is it me?
As separate.
I
from one
don't get
another.
it.
One of the reasons the chemistry between them is so weak is because they're so similar. Naoe is a little more angry and vengeful, but ultimately she's just as stoic, honor-bound, and measured as Yasuke is. Again, I think the opportunity inherent in having two protagonists is that each could be really different from one another, and those differences could result in some really interesting narrative moments. But barring a few instances where they disagree about whether a target should live or die, there really isn't much light between them. It's yet another missed opportunity. What about the broad...
So you see this? This is exactly what they did better in Syndicate. Yes, these two protagonists would have the same kind of gameplay, although combat system was a little bit different. But the there was no choices, but the story, the writing, and the chemistry between these two brother and sister felt compelling. Both had different opinions about being assassins, what their true goal must be, and they argue with each other. Jacob and Eve were completely separate characters. Even in the DLC, it showed how much differences they have. But even still, they felt truly connected. At the end of the day, they were brother and sister, and that bond was shown in this game. But here, I feel like you said, the bond is just artificial. It doesn't exist. There was no reason for this bond to be created, but yet it still is.
A supporting cast? Well, it's honestly sort of difficult to call them a supporting cast given how optional they are and how completely disconnected they are from the main plot. So the way this works is that throughout their journeys, Naoe and Yasuke will meet and recruit people back to their hideout. After that time, there are side quest chains for each of them. They're entirely optional and in no way connected to the main plot that unfolds, making these characters feel very ancillary and making it very difficult to form any real attachment to them. That's an issue caused by the way that this game is structured, which is almost identical to Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Yep.
Rather than a singular, cohesive narrative, it's instead an anthology of completely disconnected storylines that you track on this objectives board. While some level gating will generally result in you completing certain objectives in certain orders, you can do a lot of this in whatever order you please, which sounds great on paper, but if you've played any Ubisoft game over the past decade, particularly AC Mirage, you'll know how much this undermines storytelling.
Yep.
It doesn't allow the writers to build a story or character.
The characters and your main
really
targets
difficult
are
to
just
have
there
meaningful
for you to
character
get
arcs.
kill them.
It becomes almost impossible
There
to
is no
control
build up
story
for
pacing.
them.
It's a great
To
model
build
if your
them
focus
as
is
a
letting
character,
players
as
do
a
whatever
villain.
they want, whenever
As
they
I
want.
said
It's
in
a terrible
Assassin's
model
Creed
if your goal
Syndicate.
is to tell a great story. So what of that story then? Does any of it survive this structure? Well, if you played Assassin's Creed Mirage, you're going to be very familiar with why this main plot is so bad. Essentially a series of investigations trying to uncover who these masked individuals are that killed Naoe's father. The drill is always the same. Arrive at a region, get some obscure clue that leads you to a location, kill someone who happens to be carrying a note that leads you to another destination, clear out this bandit camp to find another clue that reveals the true identity of this masked person, invade their castle or stronghold or temple or whatever, listen to their little soliloquy about why their actions were actually justified before plunging a knife into their throat. Or don't, because you can actually choose to not kill people in this game. That's one thing it does. I did this loop like 12 times, and I really do struggle to remember the name of a single NPC or even the details of a single storyline. It's all spun up and then unwound so quickly that it's impossible to care about any of it. I contrast that...
Again, I say it again. There is a Assassin's Creed name. Their games were built upon the fact that their villains were not suddenly get discovered. You could discover them in a shocking way. And they got so much plot. They have personality. They have reasons. Not just a few dialogues. Yep, that's my reason. No, they had a build up to them. they felt genuinely great villains.
Like a Dragon Ishin, which is a single story that unfolds over 40 or so hours, and it is so engrossing, and every single character you meet is so memorable. Both of these stories are
it's
set in Japan, but the contrast between the two of them would not be more stark.
Man.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is a game where you will struggle
That's
to
not
care
a
about
fair
anything that's
comparison,
going on,
to be honest
where you'll
with
struggle
you.
to
Yakuza
remember
is
anyone's name. Ubisoft's structure-led
high
design
and
philosophy has done it again.
wow,
Now,
it's
what
beyond
makes
this
all
game.
the more
This game cannot even
is that
get its
this
dust.
game has the same pivot at the back end that every other recent Ubisoft game has, where the story gets good because it's no longer constrained by structure, and so Ubisoft can start telling an actual story. I remember it happened with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where the last 10 hours of that game were all in on Greek mythology and the assassin stuff and Abstergo, and it was really fucking cool. I remember it happened with Star Wars Outlaws, where the squad of scoundrels was assembled and they could then start talking to each other. It happened again here in Shadows, where the first 35 hours of this game is just straight drivel, but the last 5 hours are fucking awesome. It has Assassins v Templars, it has revelations about Yasuke's life as a slave, it has stuff about Naoe's family, it has massive lore reveals and cool cutscenes, and it has the most important and emotive scenes in the entire game for the protagonist. And all of this is buried in the last 5 hours of the game. When I was going through this, I was like, I cannot believe they have done this again. I cannot believe that they made us suffer through 35 hours of these boring, forgettable storylines when you could have just been telling this story instead. Now, obviously, you wouldn't tell only this story, you'd do a mix of A and B plots, but you'd weave this very compelling, engaging, riveting narrative into the rest of the game, so we'd be drip-fed reveals, and we'd be excited to wrap up regional storylines because it would let us reconnect to the plot line that we actually care about. Ubisoft's commitment to this free-form, open-ended anthology-style storytelling that kind of hastily wraps everything up in the last 5 hours is utterly baffling at this point.
It destroys the flow of the story and the game. It's distracting.
And I think it does just as much damage here in Shadows.
Unnecessary.
The difference being that Shadows manages to survive this poor writing thanks to how much it offers. But if you were going into this hoping for a story that you could really become invested in, then AC Shadows will disappoint you in the same way that most Ubisoft games will.
Like, she feels like a great character, like an advanced assassin, and fun to play.
Undoubtedly, one aspect of Assassin's Creed Shadows that will impress everyone is its visuals. AC games have always been strong contenders in the visuals department, but no game in the series has looked this good, and there are so many layers to Ubisoft's
Again, I think they took inspiration from Ghost of Tsushima.
Really well on PC, which is not typical for most Ubisoft games at launch, and most PC games in general these days, if I'm being honest. Running on a high-end PC at 4K max settings, I was able to comfortably clear 60 FPS with minimal frame stuttering. Other reviewers on lower-end hardware and consoles are reporting great performance as well, so that's a very good news story.
Yeah.
In addition to that, throughout my 40-hour playthrough, I had only one crash, and more impressive than even that, this was overall a pretty bug-free experience, yet another rarity when it comes to a day one release from Ubisoft. To be clear, there were some minor things here or there, like some delayed sound effects or some cutscenes taking a moment to load, but yet contrasting this with your average open world game at release, this is
Star
pretty
Wars
buttoned
Outlaws,
up, and you can
their
actually
other
see
game.
how Ubisoft used those delays to polish this to a brilliant shine. From a technical perspective, this is arguably Ubisoft's most accomplished release in a long time, and they definitely deserve a huge amount of credit for that. All that technology delivers a staggeringly beautiful rendition of feudal Japan. It is a more grounded rendition than Ghost of Tsushima, which leaned heavily into vibrant color palettes to create these unforgettable and heavily stylized canvases. Shadow's style is much closer to something like Rise of the Ronin, though the comparison between those two games doesn't do Rise of the Ronin any favors. Shadows trusts in the natural beauty of Japanese architecture and Japanese landscapes, and then works tirelessly to bring as much detail into that rendition as possible.
Yep.
It's then further enhanced by lighting that can transform scenes depending on the time of day, and it's further enhanced by the game's seasonal system. There are 4 seasons here, and the game will regularly shift from one to the next as time passes, and when it does, that
is beautiful.
transforms the landscapes.
But again, it's more like huge in comparison to like Ghost of Tsushima, where it was grounded and everything felt genuine and beautiful. You were just on an island, yet everything felt unique and beautifully crafted.
That's really the only tangible impact that this seasonal model has on gameplay though, and as pretty as all this is, it would have been nice to have seen it have more effect beyond visual identity. So AC Shadows is a really pretty game, but there's actually a more important dimension to its beauty and its presentation, and it's actually one of the biggest strengths of the game. I think Ubisoft had a clear goal for themselves in that they wanted this experience to feel serene. So much of the game is about riding through natural landscapes as you head towards the next sync tower, and there's not a lot going on as you do that, but the landscape is always beautiful, and there isn't a lot of music in the game, and even when there is, it's very understated. A number of the side activities that you do also encourage mindfulness over mayhem. One example is meditation that Nawe does, which involves pressing a sequence of buttons, but as you do, the color fades and the buttons are replaced with Japanese words, and it's just really nice.
Damn.
I look at Odyssey and Valhalla, and those games were very, very loud. The crash of waves and the yell of the crew as you sailed the Mediterranean
great
Sea,
music,
the cacophony of yelling as you raided an English monastery. Hell, one of the side activities in Valhalla was a straight-up drinking game. Looking back on those experiences, they echo loudly in your memory. Shadows is a very different vibe, one that is quieter, introspective, meditative.
I mean, that's Japanese and that's samurai lore for you.
Because you have this gameplay model that's fairly mindless, just kind of running around a big map, ticking off map markers, and then you combine that with a quieter tone. That makes AC Shadows a very relaxing game to play in a way that previous ones weren't. And if that aspect hits right with you, I can definitely see people sticking with this one as a game you might play when you're listening to a podcast or just looking to chill out.
But unfortunately, the way he says it, there's not much music in this game.
And that's very obvious.
Assassin's Creed had some great music. Oh my god.
Stealth and its dual protagonist model. But this more subtle shift in volume is a much harder thing to spot, but it will definitely be one of the things that this game is remembered and celebrated for. When it comes to the more substantive aspects of world design, Assassin's Creed Shadows continues to adopt a familiar design model that is fundamentally bad. This is, again, a game that prioritizes copy and pasted square miles over properly curated space. This map is absolutely gigantic, with like 400,000 sync towers and so many temples and so many forts and so many outposts and so many towns, and all of them look really great, but they're ultimately just the same as one another. Even though they look different, they feel the same and they have the same objectives, and you spend so little time in each of them that you never come to know or care about them. I definitely reflect on my recent time with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now that was a game that had only 2 maps, a dozen towns, and 1 city. But after spending 100 hours with that game, I knew the layout of those towns and that city. I knew the roads that connected those villages. I remember vividly some of the adventures that I had in those fields and in the forests and in the underground mines. My connection to space in that game,
they felt unique. That's all he says.
And in terms of sheer real estate, KCD's Bohemia is like 1/50th of the total landmass that AC Shadows offers. I just think this model of massive, endless, repetitive space is fundamentally bad. And I desperately
like again,
hope that one day
not Assassin's Creed, Ghost of Tsushima had great map design. They all felt unique. They all felt new. That was crafted beautifully. Even under DLC, it felt new and it felt genuinely quality proven. Quality over quantity, people. Quality is always the best. That's something that Assassin's Creed forgot about it. Remember the first Assassin's Creed games. Those were quality. Unity, the city of Paris, like, remember that.
Dozens of these temples laying around the map, and in order to complete them, you need to find 3 lost scrolls that are hidden in each location. Okay, sounds kind of interesting, right? Well, no, because what you actually need to do when you get there is just hold down the left trigger, which highlights any collectible resource and highlights your objectives. So you're not truly looking at this temple and exploring its nooks and crannies in search of these scrolls. You're just looking for the white dot so that you can press a button on it and that's the objective completed. Like, how is that fun? The exact same thing applies to main objectives in this game.
If I say it to you guys, that do you guys remember the pigeon collection? Collecting the feather of pigeons in Assassin's Creed 2, and I think Brotherhood 2? Those were the most obnoxious and idiotic thing to have ever existed, but yet people enjoyed it because it allowed them to explore the map. They explored it to find the shit out of those things. They hate it, but nowadays if I say it, people might even praise it. Or that might have been the first steps of Ubisoft going
the left trigger so you
this
can see
way.
the blue dot, and then you head towards that. And it's not like you can not use this system, because the spaces that you're exploring are so large that the only practical way that Ubisoft can guide players towards objectives is to literally highlight them. So this whole approach to level design, to space, to copy and pasted locations, to X-ray vision, these are all things that have defined modern AC games, and I think they are very bad. They have not changed or been improved here in AC Shadows, and so while this environment looks stunning, and while the vibe of exploration feels quieter and more serene, it is ultimately just as unfulfilling and mindless as it's ever been.
Dang.
Assassin's Creed Shadows takes its biggest swings in its core gameplay, progression, and itemization. Much of what's been done here is a success, and you can feel how eager Ubisoft were to respond to criticisms leveled at the previous games. Almost all of these responses are pitch perfect. It's where Ubisoft tries to innovate beyond that things really go off the rails. Before that though, let's talk about what works. The modern AC trilogy has copped a lot of flack for how much it moved away from the stealth and assassination thing. They were basically action games with some optional stealth thrown in. Mirage was an offshoot title that re-centered the assassin fantasy, and it was well received in large part because people enjoyed seeing the franchise return to that stealth focus. For me though, I didn't enjoy AC Mirage because I was like, well, I've already experienced all of this stuff years ago. Mirage made no effort to evolve its stealth model, and the various upgrades available in your progression tree only made stealth easier, not more interesting. AC Shadows follows in Mirage's footsteps in that it re-centers the stealth fantasy, but it goes beyond Mirage because it evolves the core elements of that formula while also delivering a progression tree that makes stealth more interesting as your playthrough progresses. Now to be clear, a lot of what I'm talking about here is specific to Nawe. Yasuke can stealth and he can assassinate targets, but there's a lot that this guy can't do, to the point where if stealth is your preferred playstyle, as mine was, you're almost never going to choose to play as Yasuke. Nawe embodies
so
the assassin.
That makes him a useless character. That makes him just there to exist. And that might be good for some people, but not for Assassin's Creed fans. Again, we are playing as assassins against Templars who are straight up do things in broad daylight, while an assassin does things at the shadows. Again, these two words are very important things.
She has all the traditional things you'd expect if you've played the recent games: the hidden blade, leaping assassinations, being able to distract or lure guards, etc. But there's plenty of new stuff as well. Some of it comes from Nawe's background as a shinobi, where she can use kunai to silently take down targets from a distance, and later on you can unlock smoke bombs or throwable bells that you can use.
I mean, that always existed. That's not new.
Disappear. Separate to that, both Nawe and Yasuke can go fully prone, allowing them to hide in knee-deep grass, and in the case of Nawe, allows her to access some crawl spaces that open up new pathways through levels. The prone stuff is cool, but to be honest, it isn't utilized all that much. Something similar could be said of the game's new light and dark system, where Nawe can become basically invisible when she's in the shadows, and she can extinguish light sources to help make this happen. It's a promising idea that ultimately becomes a bit of a novelty, given that you have numerous other, more powerful techniques at your disposal to avoid or neutralize threats. And the level design never forces you into situations where you need to rely on the shadows to avoid being detected. Would have been great for Ubisoft to have included some more curated missions.
That's for Splinter Cells. Their other game that they forgot about. They forgot about that game.
Sadly, they didn't.
No, I think they are introducing a new game.
Let me tell you, this thing totally rules.
Hopefully that
and it
will
absolutely
be good.
enlarges the stealth sandbox in a way that's going to be hard to go back from in future games. The grapple lets you swing across spaces, but it's used more regularly as a means of going straight up, which opens up new pathways through levels that wouldn't be possible if you were relying on just parkour. It's also just an extremely cool feeling to like leap down from a rooftop to assassinate a dude and then immediately grapple straight back up. It's like the closest we're going to get to a mod.
I don't know if I find this grapple hook a bit slow. I swear to God, I think Syndicate's grappling hook felt more compelling and more impactful, like, because you could grapple onto another building far away and then slide your way down there and assassinate your targets, and it felt fast. You went through that roof so fast. It felt so good. I wish they could bring that back.
This grapple is genuinely fantastic, and combined with how quick and responsive Nawe is and how smooth her animations are, stealth is back on the menu, boys. Parkour is another area where Shadows makes some subtle but notable improvements in the sense that you can't climb every surface. You do need to find ledges and handholds rather than just pushing forward into a sheer rock face and being able to climb it. It's a bit of a disappointment that there aren't more creative parkour sequences to be found in the main missions, but there are a few parkour challenges hidden out in the open world, so that's better than nothing. So it's really great to see Shadows make all of these changes, recentering the assassin fantasy, deepening some systems while refining others. Thumbs up across the board. It is utterly baffling then that one of the two main characters in this video game is specifically designed to not take advantage of all of this stuff. And this is when we have to start talking about
he
Yasuke.
feels like wasted
Now, if you're all
space
unawares,
and wasted
Yasuke
potential.
and Naoe are two very distinct protagonists. She is a shinobi assassin with access to every part of the game's sandbox: parkour, stealth, assassinations, and full frontal combat. Yasuke also has access to all parts of the sandbox, but it's a greatly reduced level of access when it comes to everything bar combat. So he can stealth, but he's slower to move and he doesn't have a grapple. He can parkour, but he can't climb up anything taller than like 8 feet. He can assassinate targets, but it's only a brutal assassination, which is loud, and it has a very long animation that leaves him exposed while doing it.
Hey!
Damn.
So look, as I said in the intro, I think this was a really interesting experiment. I can absolutely see the design meeting where this goes up on a whiteboard and it gets kicked around and it gets greenlit on the premise that it's truly innovative for the AC formula. And we're always accusing AC games of being safe and repetitive, so what could be a more bold response to that criticism than a move like this? But the truth is, I really can't see how this made it through the prototyping phase, because Yasuke is such a massive step down in terms of his kit that it's almost comical at times. Like, you actually spend the first 10 hours of this game playing exclusively as Naoe, and in that time, you are fully immersed in her fantasy.
Yep.
You are polishing up your stealth chops.
You
and
are
you're
getting
climbing all over
the
shit.
gameplay, you're getting it together, while Yasuke comes out in
what the
suddenly,
fuck is this?
wow.
He is so slow and clunky to control, he just doesn't feel good to use. Then you clamber up your first ledge and see him struggle to lift his weight. It takes him so long to do it, and you're like, hurry up, bro, I got places to be. I remember I tried to cross a rope at one point because that's something I'd been doing for the preceding 10 hours, and you can imagine how well that went. And then, of course, there was the first time I did the signature leap of faith.
I am getting too old for this.
And I get the joke, absolutely. It's charming that this guy isn't as graceful as Naoe is, sure. But the joke stops being funny when it's literally impeding my ability to enjoy the game, because Yasuke's limitations are so egregious that they regularly suck the fun out of what you're doing. And I'll give you a perfect example. There are these tombs hidden throughout the world, and they're like underground traversal challenges full of rock climbing and grappling, etc.
Oh my
They're
god.
almost all built for Naoe, but one of them is designed exclusively for Yasuke. And I head into this thing, and I come to this room, and the way out of the room is in like the top left, and I need to climb up a fairly short ledge in order to reach it. It's the kind of height that Naoe could handle with her eyes closed, but Yasuke cannot make that jump. And I'm really stuck at this point, and I was like, maybe I went the wrong way, maybe I missed a turn earlier in the tomb and what I'm seeing is actually an exit. And then I see to my left this bookshelf looking thing, and on the ground I see some scratch marks, and I'm like, oh no, that can't be it. Sure enough, I had to move this fucking bookshelf in place so that Yasuke could climb onto it to reach this slightly higher ledge. And while I was doing it, I felt like Naoe would have just been looking down on us like,
Look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power.
it was just crazy that Ubisoft thought this shit would be fun in an Assassin's Creed game. And the honest truth is that I played Yasuke very little during my playthrough, as little as I could in fact. I kind of decided that that would be my approach after my preview, and that decision was vindicated when straight after I got control of Yasuke, after playing for 10 hours as Naoe, I encountered this wall.
Yep, he cannot do it.
Immediately after that, like literally 30 seconds later, I encountered this sync tower, which Yasuke had no means of climbing. So I had to go into my menu, switch to Naoe, sit through the loading sequence, and then continue on as her. It was at that moment I was like, yeah, no, there's no way I can do this. So I switched to Naoe.
So what was his use then?
Playthrough. Hearing all of this, you might be wondering, okay, so he sucks at the assassin stuff. How is he in combat? Is it worth the trade-off? Well, it's a complicated question to answer because combat here is a real mixed bag. Overall, it's just not very good. It's not terrible, but it's just not up to par in 2025. It has really nice, cool-looking animations, and so watching this, you probably think, hey, that looks sick. But it's all predicated on an overly simplistic combat model that's generally about breaking an enemy's guard, deflecting their attacks, and chipping
and
away
their
at their large health.
deflecting
Enemy
is
animations
really,
are often very inconsistent
it is
too.
really free. Like, it is so free. It is so simple. Like, they're slowing down. There's no reason for you to even like deflect. You can simply just dodge.
Different move sets that still demand the exact same approach.
And what I'm seeing is her combat seems even more beautiful and more fast-paced and more fun than his.
They found a real sweet spot here where item upgrades come at a steady clip, and the different bonuses on them do allow you to specialize in a specific weapon style, or focus more on a specific attack type, or focus on status debuffs. It is simple, but it definitely works. The skill trees are another success. Valhalla had one of the worst skill trees in the history of video games. And yes. I am not exaggerating when I say that.
Yeah, nope, you're right. Absolutely.
And hundreds of stupid nodes that did next to nothing, with no ability to even see where the most valuable upgrades were because the nodes were all hidden. Absolute insanity. They've addressed all of that here, and we've got fewer nodes. Most of them have a tangible impact on your playstyle or power, with new abilities being meted out throughout your playthrough, so you can genuinely look forward to putting points into that tree, because generally speaking, you're going to unlock something you can actually feel. I also give a lot of praise to the fact that there are a number of distinct weapon types in this game, and they really do find their place in the combat sandbox. There are weapons that excel in 1v1 dueling, in dealing with large groups of enemies, in breaking armor, in applying status debuffs. The weapons each have beautiful animations and finishes and unique abilities tied to the skill trees.
But hers feel like even more fun again.
The underlying combat model is, because as fun as it is to use these weapons, they can't make up for how scrappy and underbaked that core combat feels. So coming back to that earlier question about Yasuke, are the trade-offs worth it? Does he excel in combat in the way that he should? Well, the answer to that is yes, but to a degree that absolutely breaks the game. Yasuke is so powerful that he is borderline invincible, while also dealing a truckload of damage, while also having access to more heals and sustain, while also being able to interrupt unblockable enemy attacks. The list goes on and on. He is just straight up broken. The truth is, the tuning of Nawe is absolutely flawless because she is a character focused on stealth, and when you get spotted and it's time to throw down, she can hold her own, but you have to really focus. You are weak, you don't deal a lot of damage, every encounter demands your full attention,
you can easily die
that strengthens the overall game loop because it makes the stakes of getting spotted all the higher. Yasuke though, he's just like an I win button in combat. When you are playing as Nawe, it feels like you're fighting for your life in every encounter. When you are playing as Yasuke, it feels like you are playing GTA and you are trying to get a 5-star wanted level with cheats enabled. Yasuke's one job was to provide a more compelling combat experience, but his tuning does the exact opposite of that. He literally sucks all the fun out of combat by being so overtuned, and coupled with his restrictions outside of combat.
So it's like if you try to play double Rivers of Blood in the first Elden Ring without the patches, that's it. Like, broken as hell. That's
why Ubisoft designed this guide the way that they did. If you do play through Shadows, I really recommend playing as much Nawe as possible, but to be honest, I don't think anyone really needs that recommendation, because I'm all but certain that everyone is going to come to that same conclusion themselves.
That's an accomplishment of it.
Together with music, sound design, weather seasons, and a number of the side activities, AC Shadows has a serene quality that I think will come to define it as we speak about it in the years to come. In terms of core gameplay, there's a lot to celebrate here too. Nawe feels fantastic to control, and she's every bit the shinobi assassin we wanted to control since this franchise began. Subtle things like the ability to go prone and the ability to meld into the shadows are nice, but the grapple is a real game changer and opens up entirely new opportunities for stealthing, parkour, and assassinations. Weapon diversity is also great, as are the skill trees and itemization that deepen the way those weapons are used. In this specific regard, Ubisoft definitely reflected on everything they got right and wrong in the previous games, and they've done great work here. So all of those things are good, but I think there's a more important thing that's guiding the way I'm talking about this game and whether or not I recommend it, and it's this. You already know what this is. In fact, similar to what I said of Far Cry 6, you've already played this video game. The question is, do you want to play it again? And me saying to you, nah man, don't do that, doesn't really make any sense because you already know what you're getting yourself into. Now, my hope going into this was that I'd be able to recommend AC Shadows. As I mentioned at the top of this review, this is a franchise that could be so much more than what it is, but I think it's built on some very weak foundations that Ubisoft did not address here in Shadows.
The story, they're forgetting the story. I guess I'm saying that's the most important one. They forgot the story completely.
By this bullshit game structure, they can actually develop good characters and tell good stories. But structured as it is, this game was doomed from the start in the exact same way Mirage was. Ubisoft's approach to open world design in Shadows repeats all of the mistakes they've made over and over again this past decade. Massive worlds that mean absolutely nothing to you, repetitive objectives made even more mindless by their reliance on X-ray vision solving the puzzles for you. I just think this entire open world design philosophy needs to be thrown out, but I can't imagine Ubisoft doing that anytime soon. Combat is another core weakness. It's just not good enough. Comparing it to Ghost of Tsushima is a night and day comparison. And to be clear, Tsushima's combat isn't exactly genre defining. If you're going to be basing the majority of your 40-hour long open world game on combat, then that combat needs to be a lot better than what we have here. And finally, there's Yasuke. I think he will be remembered as an odd question mark in the annals of this series. A really interesting premise for a character that is squandered by poor storytelling and then utterly ruined by baffling design choices that make him too weak in some areas and too strong in others.
I guess the people who hated Yasuke are gonna eat beautifully now, because he's straight up, the way I see it, he's straight up useless to play. Like, there's no fun in him. You're just playing a overpowered building in Elden Ring. But it's not even an Elden Ring.
What could have been achieved with him. The Yasuke stuff aside, all of my complaints about AC Shadows are pretty predictable. They too fall into that category of you knowing what they are before having even experienced them for yourself. For many people, these things won't be deal breakers, and the allure of another historically inspired, map marker clearing Ubisoft adventure is all they need to get them over the line. And to these people I say, God bless, Godspeed. I really do think you're going to enjoy this one, because Ubisoft have put a lot of work into refining something that you already love. But for everybody else, myself included, AC Shadows is just another one. And I did not need another one of these games at this point in my life. I still fervently believe that the potential of this franchise is immense, and I look forward to the day when Ubisoft has the courage to realize that potential, but it's definitely not today. You've no doubt heard of this video sponsor SteelSeries for...
Okay, thank you, my guy. I honestly don't know what else to say about this game. At some point, it's somewhat good. At some, it's bad. It's meh. Again, I think this game will save Ubisoft, at least for the time being, for them not to crash out to be bought completely by Tencent. But I don't think it will still save the franchise for a lot of like us who love the franchise since the early days. I just don't see the progression in these games. Straight up, again, it's another one. Like you said, there's the same things over and over again. I don't see progress in these games. I don't know, man. But tell me, guys, your thoughts and opinions of this game. Do you think this is good? Do you think the Assassin's Creed Shadow is worth it? Do you want me to play it even? Tell me in the comment section down below. Make sure to check out these two reviews. Again, these two are like legit honest. Unlike IGN, who get paid for their reviews. These guys are honest and genuine with their reviews, and I love that. So make sure to check those two out. Give them some love. And if you enjoyed this reaction, make sure to leave a like on this one, subscribe for more awesome content, and comment down below your thoughts on it. If you played this game, tell me what your thoughts are about the game. Please tell me completely honestly. And if you want me to play it, make sure to tell me in the comment section down below. I love you, each and every one of you. Take care, and I will see you all in the next video. And stay tuned for another Marvel Rivals game video coming out. I'm reaching Diamond, baby. Bye.